walk you through the poem Presents from My Aunt in Pakistan by W.B Monday, written in the late 1950s. At this time, there was not as much multiculturalism between countries as there is now. It is about a girl whose family have moved to England from Pakistan. She discusses the way in which she has adjusted to her new home, yet still longs for her childhood place. The speaker has received a gift from an aunt still living in Pakistan of traditional dress. She reveals she moved to England because she had an English grandmother and Pakistan became a dangerous place for her. This poem reveals the memories of her past life that she cherishes and how she feels with her multiculturalism. Stanza 1. They sent me a salwar kameez, peacock blue, and another glistening like an orange split open, embossed slippers, gold and black, points curling, candy-striped glass bangles, snapped, drew blood. Like at school, fashions changed in Pakistan. The salwar bottoms were broad and stiff, then narrow. My aunt chose an apple green sari, silver bordered for my teens. So the first thing to note within stanza 1 would be in the opening line. We are given a clue to the narrative. Her aunt has sent her traditional Pakistani dress from where she lived, although is now living in England. So you get an idea of the story and what the poem's going to be about. The first simile used is like an orange. This reflects the bright and beautiful sparkling colours that the traditional dress would have been, and that she does believe the clothes are beautiful, but they're just not quite right for her. Then go on to the line where it says snapped, drew blood. You've got this beautiful glass bangle that's been broken and has cut her. So this is starting to show her conflict with the clothes and that they are a painful reminder of her dual culturalism and how she feels she doesn't quite belong in them. The next simile, like at school, so this is showing a comparison between the two cultures. So in England, when she's at school, because she's part of the education system, that is her life now, fashions change, as I'm sure the fashions that were around in the 1950s, which we'll hear about in the next stanza, are not the same as the fashions now. But they do still change in Pakistan, so it doesn't matter where you are, fashion will always change. Stanza 2. I tried each satin silken top, was alien in the sitting room. I could never be as lovely as those clothes. I longed for denim and corduroy. My costume clung to me and I was aflame. I couldn't rise up out of its fire. Half English, unlike Aunt Jamelia. So the opening metaphor where you've got was alien in the sitting room. This is interesting is because at the time of writing, she would have been classed as an alien in England because she wasn't born in England. Yet she's feeling alien in the clothes. So whereas she should feel alien in the place, it's a contrast to this because she's feeling alien in the clothes. Then you've got, I could never be as lovely as those clothes. She doesn't believe she's good enough to be in these clothes, partly down to her dual culture, so because she is part English, and she longed for the English clothes, so the denim and the corduroy, which were in style or fashion at the time. She refers to the clothes as my costume. They're not clothes to her, they're a costume with which she's put on. It's not something that she's comfortable in. And that the idea that they clung to her, so they didn't fit, in her opinion. And then she felt a flame in them, which was her discomfort, maybe even her embarrassment about being in the clothes. And then, of course, she refers to herself as half English. This is showing that she's only part English and then part Pakistan and doesn't feel that she fits in either. But Aunt Jamil, who's full Pakistan, would look beautiful in these clothes. I wanted my parents' camel skin lamp, switching it on in my bedroom, to consider the cruelty and the transformation from camel to shade, marvel at the colours like stained glass. This is the comparison she's making for a transformation from Pakistan to English. She's embracing the cruelty of her culture, so changing a camel into a lamp. and yet she feels like she is the camel being forced to change into something. Stanza 4. My mother cherished her jewellery, Indian gold, dangling, filigree, but it was stolen from our car. The presents were radiant in my wardrobe. My aunts requested cardigans from Marks and Spencer's. So you've got this, her mother was very proud of her heritage and wanted to look after the treasures that she had from it, the jewellery that she'd kept. Potentially the writer may feel guilty that she doesn't necessarily feel the way that her mother does. But also from this you can infer it was her mother who was Pakistani and it's her father whose heritage is English. The line, "it was stolen," shows that her culture is slowly being stolen away from her and that she's changing and she's having the English culture that was part of where she lives and the Pakistani culture still being sent to her. You've also got the idea that they left Pakistan because it was dangerous, and you've got that idea that England too does also have dangers within it. The idea that the contrast between it, so my aunts requested cardigans from Marks and Spencer's, shows that they're requesting the plain English clothes which fill her wardrobe, and she's got these radiant clothes within hers that she's not sure if she really wants. My salwar kameez didn't impress the school friend who sat on my bed, asked to see my weekend clothes. But often I admired the mirror work, tried to glimpse myself in the miniature glass circles, recall the story how the three of us sailed to England. Prickly heat had me screaming on the way. I ended up in a cot in my English grandmother's dining room, found myself alone, playing with a tin boat. So one of the first things to notice is she's introduced her culture to one of her school friends and they're not impressed. The clothes, the beauty, they prefer the English culture and the English fashion at the time. But you have got that idea that she started to change, so you've got this often. She tried the clothes on regularly and she looked at herself in the mirror work and wanted to be as beautiful as these clothes and wanted to feel that she could fit in them or look right in them, in her opinion. And that recalls her story of them moving to England. Now, the line where it says, "prickly heat had me screaming on the way," this shows that she must have been very young. She remembers the heat on her skin, and the fact that she was screaming would suggest that she was a very young child at the time. And that idea that she found herself alone, this shows a dual culturalism, that she feels she's alone in the experience, that she's got no one to share it with. Her mother was fully Pakistan, her father was fully English, and she's sort of fitting in between in this idea of feeling that she's half of both. I pictured my birthplace from 50s photographs. When I was older, there was conflict, a fractured land throbbing through newsprint. Sometimes I saw Lahore, my aunts in shaded rooms, screened from male visitors, sorting presents, wrapping them in tissue. So this again shows how young she must have been from the memory as she pictures her birthplace, but not from her memory, from photos that she's seen, would suggest she can't quite remember the place itself. And then you've got "when I was older," which again shows the shift in time of her being very young when she moved. So she's had a significant English influence up to this point. That there was conflict, so she only learns about the conflict that forced her out of her home as she's older. Then you've got the fractured land. So she's read in the media, the idea that it's throbbing through the media shows the coverage that's been shown of this place, that's troubled and broken and not like a home you would want. And that sparks her memory of her aunts back there and shows another aspect to the culture than clothes, as her aunts in a shaded room screened from male visitors. So females weren't allowed to interact with males in the same way, and that marriage were arranged differently and that the gender roles were very different. But her tone remains one of a fond memory, so she's still fond of this image that she sees and that idea that they're wrapping presents in tissue. Potentially now she's the one that's receiving the presents from the idea that she's moved. So maybe it's that idea that they're wrapping her clothes that they're sending to her. at the 7. Or there was beggars, sweeper girls, and I was there, of no fixed nationality, staring through fretwork of the Chalmier Gardens. So you've got a short stanza at the end to sort of summarise how she's feeling. It's the only stanza that ever discusses anything negative towards the aspects of Pakistan life. And you've got images of poverty, of the beggars, the sweeper girls, sort of the idea that the country doesn't have a lot of money. And she then compares herself, I was there. So it's that idea that she's one of these people because she has no home. She has what she feels is no nationality. And then you've got obviously her visiting Pakistan, and it becomes apparent that the speaker never felt entirely at home anywhere, whether it was visiting Pakistan when she was sort of older and going back, or whether it was while she was growing up in England, because she always felt she was half of each of them. So if you look at it, when in Pakistan, she felt different because she was part English, and then in England, she felt different because she was half Pakistani. She subtly reveals the inner feelings that she has no place to call home, and that she is from very different cultures and ethnicities, and she doesn't really know which one it is. So we've studied poems from different cultures. This is one that felt that she was split due to her culture.